On today's show, we are going to discuss 7 of the bettable awards markets: MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year. Important note, we are looking at DraftKings markets here on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube, and we'll discuss mostly DraftKings lines. But one of the reasons this market is so soft is because there are wildly different lines across different books. Be sure, I'm begging you, don't listen to Silva. Be sure you shop for the best line. If you need new accounts, be sure to get the sign-up bonuses when you get those new accounts. To do that, go to the props tab on establishthedrun.com. Go to the section titled Sign Up Bonus by State and find your state site you want to sign up for. Links are all there. One more thing I want to say before we start here. This is the one NFL betting area where I do not have a lot of respect for the market. I have no respect for the market, actually. I mean, just last year, the books posted and people were blasting into Sam Darnold for Comeback Player of the Year, even though the Associated Press, who runs these awards, they told everyone coming back from sucking was not the criteria. So we got a chance to pile in on Joe Burrow, 5-1, 7-1, 8-1, easy game. And I mean, this offseason, all summer, Nick Bedino, 60-1, 50-1, despite clearly being one of the best young pass rushers in the NFL, on one of the NFL's best defenses, coming off 13.5 sacks last year, he's down to 10-1 already. And I mean, a few years back, I don't know if you guys remember, Deshaun Watson, the market had Deshaun Watson as one of the favorites for some award. I don't even remember which one it is. I would have bet $1 million the voters would never vote for Deshaun Watson when he had 30 sexual misconduct allegations floating around him. So my point here is, if you like something, do not assume it is baked into the market. In fact, it probably isn't. It probably isn't. If you tried to tell me that you had some angle on NFL sides or NFL totals that isn't baked into the market, I'd say you're likely brain dead or you're among the top 0.001% of bettors in the world. But if you tell me you have some angle that's not baked into the awards market, you're probably right. So anyways, just had to get that off my chest. Okay, I've said too much. Let's start with the MVP award. Ryan, a quarterback has won this award 17 of the last 18 years. The last time a non-quarterback won was Adrian Peterson in 2012. This is going to be a quarterback. And not only is it going to be a quarterback who wins MVP, it's going to be a quarterback who wins at least 12 games, probably 13 at least. Ryan, how are you thinking about regular season MVP award right now?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's interesting about this award so early on is Jaden Daniels' injury, Brock Purdy's injury, Lamar Jackson's in flux now, and even the Chargers' offensive tackle situations kind of at least partially wipes off 4 main contenders off the board, where Lamar and Herbert, I wouldn't call them wiped off, but they're close. Where I think in the AFC you got Allen, Mahomes that are obvious, and then the NFC, it's actually, I think, Stafford and Jared Goff is at a very good price at plus 2,500 still, man.
I have some thoughts on this one. One thing that I would say, though, Mark, is like, I mean, you got to really stand out. Like, Sam Darnold won 14 games last year and finished 10th. I'm not saying I would have voted for him, but he finished 10th. He didn't get a single first, second, third, or fourth place vote, did Sam Darnold. So you have to come in with some pedigree here, and like just coming out of nowhere and winning 14 games. That's not even good enough, you know? So any thoughts here, Mark, on MVP?
Yeah, I think one of the criteria we're looking for too is the team the top seed in their conference, and just the AFC at the top with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I think it's tough given what Ryan alluded to with the injuries to Lamar Jackson and some other contenders. You know, it kind of puts those two atop at the AFC. So I was looking at the NFC a little bit. I do think Matthew Stafford is pretty interesting at 18-1 right now as a long shot bet. I do think Josh Allen should be the prohibitive favorite right now. The Bills, I was looking for like angles of trying to sell myself on an MVP bet outside of Allen right now. And the Bills' remaining schedule is really soft. And he's just such the focal point of their offense that I think it is difficult to tell yourself too many stories about other players overcoming Josh Allen at this point. I do think Mahomes is interesting at 7-1, just if the Chiefs can win the AFC West, a much tougher division than the AFC East at this point. And, you know, we know that Rashee Rice is coming back in a couple of weeks. Mahomes kind of carried the Chiefs, even though they started 0-2. His rushing output in the first few weeks, I think voters could get behind. Like his statistical output at the end of the season could be more favorable than Josh Allen's, just if they continue to play in closer games. So I think Mahomes and Stafford are essentially the two I would be looking at kind of as longer shots. I'm curious what you guys think about Jalen Hurts, though. Obviously, the Eagles just off to such a strong start, but I don't know if the counting stats will ever really get there for him. And the Eagles are just lauded as such a strong team. I don't really know if he has a chance to win it. I'm curious if you guys think he's in the running still.
I think Hurts is dead. The narrative out there is that this team wins because of their defense, their offensive line, Saquon Barkley, etc. I do not think Hurts can win this award based on narrative stuff. I would not take him at 13-1. I do like the Mahomes note. I don't know if I'm going to take it, but you can get 8.5-1 out there on Fanatics and a couple other spots. I would not take this plus 650 on DraftKings, but at 8.5-1, the Chiefs, even with the worst weaponry in the league while Xavier Worthy was out, they were still second in pass rate over expectation in the entire NFL. Once they get Worthy and Rashee Rice back out there and start throwing a ton, I think Mahomes' stats could spike in a big, big way. Now, he's probably going to have to win more games than Josh Allen. And I think that is a very tough task, but that is also why Josh Allen is even money here, plus 100. There's some plus 110 out there on Josh Allen also. The long shot that I like, and you guys are going to call me crazy, it's 35-1 here, but 50-1 on FanDuel is Jaden Daniels, who I thought probably could have played last week. They held him out. Now he comes back 100%. He only misses 2 games. Maybe that's disqualifying, but Jaden Daniels comes back and proves what he's worth to this team, which to me is like everything. And as you saw how well this team was playing last season at the end, where they beat the Lions on the road in the playoffs, Jaden Daniels at 50-1. If they come back and rattle off, I don't know, 10 wins in 12 games or something with Jaden Daniels, 11 wins in 13 games with Jaden Daniels, I think he'll be in the mix. Now, obviously, you're asking a lot for them to win that many games in a row, but I thought the 50-1 was at least interesting. Any thoughts on that one, Ryan? Do you think Jaden is dead, and any more Mahomes thoughts?
Dead? No, I don't think he's dead. I think it's narrow now. Obviously, like usually players that win the MVP, sometimes they miss one game because they missed the regular season finale. Rarely it's because they miss more than one in season. But I don't think he's dead because, like you said, if Washington even ends up being the 2 seed, it's going to be on his back. And with Mahomes, I think the one interesting spot with Mahomes is, and this is where he can make up ground, is they play each other, Buffalo and KC, in Week 9. And if Kansas City's the 2 seed, but they beat Buffalo in that game, I definitely think he can win this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. MVP is not my favorite award to bet. I think like when you're looking for edges and finding big edges, I don't think MVP is the one where like historically I found the biggest edges. I know some sharp people had a crazy score with Lamar Jackson that year. He kind of came out of nowhere and won the MVP at like 50-1 or 61. I haven't seen that recently in terms of guys who I think are actually viable at 50 or 61 at any point. So out of all the markets, I think this one has kind of gotten sharpened up the most. Let's go to Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is a very interesting race here this season. I don't like the favorites. And when I don't like the favorites, that usually means that I like to attack this market. I do not think Emeka Egbuka, who is currently the favorite in this market at plus 250 on DraftKings, I do not think he's going to end up winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. The underlying metrics on Egbuka are not great. He's had a couple fluky big plays, including last week against the Eagles. Chris Godwin, shockingly to me, came back and was fully healthy, and he's practicing full here this week, and Mike Evans is going to be back in a couple weeks. So I think just too short here on Egbuka at plus 250. Yeah, if he was like 7-1, 6-1, I'd be like, okay, yeah, he's that's about right. I don't think he should be plus 250 here. And I also don't really like Genti at plus 320. Output for Genti has only been good in 1 out of 4 games, and that game was against the freaking Bears. Now he loses Colton Miller to injury. Schedule is going to get much, much tougher. I also think Jackson Dart is a pass for me at plus 550 with Malik Neighbors going down. It's really hard for me to see Jackson Dart winning this award and being really efficient without Malik Neighbors. So that's 3 of the top 4 choices I just said I didn't like, which should lead us to some long shots, which I'll save for now. Ryan, thoughts on Offensive Rookie of the Year right now?
I'm actually aligned with a lot of what you just said with Egbuka. My concern specifically is Chris Godwin because they have similar skill sets. So I could see him really cutting into his production long term. That said, I do think he should be the favorite now. I wouldn't bet on him, but I
Yeah.
do think he should be the favorite now. Genty agreed. Genty showed last week that he's actually a great player, but like you said, Colton Miller's out. That's might be the worst offensive line in football. We'll see what Brandon Thorne says about that. But the 3 previous weeks, like he was literally getting hit in the backfield on every snap. And Jackson Dart, I think the Giants are in trouble offensively. So if you got him at a good price at 20-1, that's interesting. But at plus 550, he's a complete cross off for me now.
Yeah, agreed. And the other one that I didn't mention, the third favorite, is Amari Hampton, who, since the Najee injury, usage has been awesome. I think that Amari Hampton is not a crazy bet at 5-1. There might be actually better numbers out there. No, 5-1 is the best number out there on Amari Hampton. Mark, thoughts on offensive rookie of the year right now?
Agreed and align with you guys on the top of the board here. I do think Hampton is somewhat of an interesting bet. He could just kind of overtake this Chargers offense, and I am a little bit worried about the tackle injuries there, kind of hurting the offensive efficiency. But Hampton could get 15 to 20 touches the rest of the way. And last week we did see him have not necessarily like signature plays, but he did bust a long run. He had kind of a grown man tackle dragging some guys with him 15 yards down the field. So I think Hampton is interesting in terms of the top guys. Tyler Warren I would be interested in, just because the Colts, I'm a believer in the Colts being a good team throughout the rest of this season. I do think they're the clear front runners to win that division, and teams like that typically get rewarded sometimes in the awards market. So I think Warren is interesting, but coming off a year last year where Brock Bowers just absolutely broke all these tight end records, I don't know if people will stack up Warren against that and be like, well, he didn't have a Brock Bowers season, so we can't give him the award. When looking at long shots here, I think Woody Marks at 60-1 is pretty interesting. Just again, 60-1, I'll take that. And looks like he is overtaking the Houston backfield there. I don't necessarily love this Texans offense, but Woody Marks we could see become an RB1 down the stretch here. So in terms of long shots, that was the name that stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, Woody Marks, I did take some 60-1. I was pissed at myself because there was 100-1 out there on Woody Marks. And God, there's nothing that I hate more than missing a number by that much and still taking it. But I did think that Woody Marks has a chance to really go like 70-30 in this backfield. And if Houston can get it together, that could be something for sure. My favorite bet right now, though, Ryan, in this market is Ted McMillan at 15-1. I like Ted McMillan at 7-1 and 8-1 and 9-1. So now I definitely like him at 15-1. I just think he's the best player, right? I just think he is like the best, clearly best wide receiver in this class. Maybe Bryce Young can find something. After he got benched last year, I thought he looked really, really good and came on. He's regressed so badly this year, but maybe he can flip a switch again. And if he doesn't, maybe we see Andy Dalton. But either way, just close my eyes and bet on the player who I think is actually the best rookie in this class. You could maybe say Genty, but I still think, well, you should probably definitely say Genty. But I still think Ted McMillan is clearly the best wide receiver in this class and maybe the most talented rookie. So at 15-1, I want to take some chances there. So I'm curious your take on that, Ryan. And then the other one I wanted to ask you about is Quinshon Judkins, who the Browns are just going full workhorse on. Now, will you vote for a guy? Will the voters vote for a guy who has this domestic violence thing that caused him to miss the entire offseason? That's probably why I would not take Judkins. But yeah, any thoughts on McMillan or Judkins for offensive rookie of the year, Ryan?
Yeah, I like McMillan. I've mentioned McMillan a few times from the offseason too. Narrow targets in Carolina, and they're that's one of the worst defenses in the league too. So you're going to get some garbage time production out of him too. So yeah, I think he could definitely catch Ibuka, especially since Travis Hunter is basically off the board now. He basically has to beat Ibuka primarily, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he outproduced him. So good price on him. With Judkins, man, them going to the rookie this early is. I don't know how that's going to go, especially this week. Like the idea of them traveling to Europe and throwing this guy against a Brian Flores defense concerns me. But yes, like given his usage and that Cleveland actually is a pretty good team and a very good defense, I could see him hanging in there. As far as the off-field concerns, I think that could. I think it's more likely for him to slide under the radar. Where like when we were talking about Watson in the comeback player of the year race a few years ago, it was like, that's preposterous. Like he's not winning. But with him, I could see that maybe being overlooked, at least more likely to be overlooked.
Yeah, I don't think I'd take the 16-1 on Judkins. And if you think that Dylan Gabriel fails, as it sounds like Ryan does this week against the Vikings, and the offense fails, then you could certainly wait a week on Judkins and probably get a better price there. The last long shot that I wrote down in this market, I don't know if I'm going to take it, but I just want to get your guys' take on Luther Burden at 100-1. He's currently running like 9 routes a game or like 10 routes a game, so it would be pretty thin. However, DJ Moore seems to not be a focal point of this offense whatsoever. Alameda Zacchaeus cannot hold on to this job for the entire year. And so if Burden gets out there for 9 or 10 games as a full-time player, maybe DJ Moore gets traded. I wish I get like 150-1 or 200-1 would intrigue me more than 100-1. I didn't want to nitpick though. Mark, any thoughts on Burden at 100-1?
I think so many things have to go right for him. Not only would like DJ Moore or Roma Dunze have to get injured or moved or something, he has to come out and in a portion of the season just show that he is just an absolute baller, I guess. He would kind of have to like take the league by storm, I think, to really make noise in this market, given he's he did have that 100-yard game and long reception on the flea flicker play from Caleb Williams. So he at least has something on tape. It's not like he's starting at complete zero. At 100-1, it's hard to argue too much, but man, the path theme's really, really cluttered to me.
I don't think I'm going to take it. Ryan, any thoughts on that or anything else for offensive rookie of the year you wanted to mention?
I think with Burden, I think your path is Amon-Ra St. Brown's rookie year late in the year, where he just stacks big time volume in the second half. I don't think it's off the table. I'm not sure I'd bet my life on it, but I'll also say this, guys. I actually had Caleb Williams as 100-1 for MVP in my notes. I don't think the Bears get there from a win-loss standpoint, but production-wise, like he's actually in a great spot. So if Burden plays, especially like you said, if they trade DJ Moore, whose usage has been bizarre to this point, I don't hate it at 100-1. I don't hate it.
All right. Oh, I did want to say that someone was shilling me an offensive lineman for offensive rookie of the year. And I get it. Armand Membu's for the Jets is having a really nice season. And he's, what is this? Freaking 500-1 or something like that. Yeah, 500-1. I don't think I can put money on an offensive lineman to the offensive rookie of the year. Ryan, have any interest at 500-1 in Armand Membu, tackle for the New York Jets?
I ignore it, generally speaking, offensive linemen. If the Jets were 4-0, given that they're in the New York market and this guy had a big personality, I would bet it at 500-1, but not in the current environment.
Okay. It's rare that you'll hear me say I won't take something that somebody shows me at 500-1. If you show me something at 500-1, I'm probably going to take it. But this one, I think I'm going to pass. Okay. Let's go to defensive rookie of the year, where Abdul Carter, of course, shout out Penn State, is the favorite here at plus 140. Also, Jihad Campbell continues to get some national recognition for the way he's playing for the Eagles defense right now. Ryan, thoughts on the current state of the defensive rookie of the year market?
Yeah, I mean, going into the year, I thought Abdul Carter has the exact profile that wins this race virtually every year. But if anyone was going to threaten him, it was going to be Campbell, given the spot he's in if he plays. So I think it is what it is. Carter hasn't been productive enough for him to be a runaway favorite, but he really popped last week, and he looks like Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. Like I think he's going to start pushing Thibodeau for more playing time too. So I think he's going to be very, very, very hard to beat.
Yeah, I have not made any bets in this market during the season. I think before the season we talked, Ryan didn't really like it, but I did take Michael Williams. He's I think I got 18-1, and he's currently 18-1. I think that's the only bet that I have in this market. Mark, any thoughts on defensive rookie of the year?
Not a whole lot. I'm fantasy football oriented, so mostly focused on the offensive side here. I can't say I've watched any Abdul Carter or Jihad Campbell tape, but I have seen Tape Bros tout Carson Schlesinger as being potentially one of the better linebackers in the league already. He's third in this at plus 500, so it's not like you're getting an amazing value on him. But this Browns defense has, I think, exceeded expectations early on. He was a high profile pick for them. If Abdul Carter, he only has a half a sack right now. I do think he's going to have to pick up some sacks throughout the rest of the season to, really run away with it. But Schlesinger, I think, would be the one I would potentially lean into. But outside of that, not much analysis for me on this one.
Well, We talked about Schlesinger before the season, and the thesis for that one is like, go out and lead the league in tackles, right? If you could go out and lead the league in tackles as a rookie, maybe you have a chance. He has 32 tackles right now through 4 games, so certainly racking up a ton of tackles. But yeah, it's going to be hard because the sacks is what a lot of these voters are looking at rather than what's going on tape or anything like that. There was one rookie, Ryan. I don't even know if anybody's even heard of this guy, but Kirk Evans was shilling me Jacob Parrish at 50-1. Now, Jacob Parrish is a Bucs 3rd round pick. Like, nobody on earth knows who he is, including me. However, he is PFF's number 3 graded cornerback on this season. That's not just among rookies. Among all defensive backs, Jacob Parrish is the number 3 graded cornerback. The problem is he has no stats, right? So he has no interceptions. He has no forced fumbles. It's going to be really hard to win this award when nobody knows who you are. You're a 3rd round pick. And the only thing you can point to is like, well, you're having a really good coverage season according to PFF. So I didn't take it at 50-1, but I just want to throw that out there. Any thoughts on that, Ryan, or the Schlesinger stuff?
I like that you. I'm in on Schlesinger too. Like, that's the guy that I left off. But usually I have like an ugly, gruesome like 50-1 plus long shot, and I didn't have one this year. Like last year was Kalen Bullock, who had interceptions for the Texans as safety. The thing that I like about the Jacob Parrish concept is Sauce Gardner obviously played for the Jets, and he was a top 5 pick, so he's a higher profile player. But if the pass rushers fail, and they didn't that year when Gardner won, Hutchinson actually had one of the better rookie years a pass rushers ever had. But if the pass rushers fail, where Carter currently, like Mark said, only has half a sack, if that doesn't jump, there is a path for this guy if he continues to play at this rate, especially because like someone like Mina Keems will bring him up at like the halfway point if he continues. So yeah. I think he'll get on more radars if he continues.
By the way, just to put a bow on the Schlesinger stuff, he's tied for 27th in the league in tackles with 32. The current leader is Jordan Brooks on Miami with 44 tackles. So he's already 12 tackles behind to lead the league. So it's tough. It's tough. Let's go to Offensive Player of the Year, which is, of course, an award that is near and dear to our hearts. What this award has turned into is effectively the best fantasy skill player in the NFL. I don't know about you guys. I think if Puka stays healthy for all 17 games, he wins this award. I mean, he has the Cooper Kupp role with Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp, of course, won Offensive Player of the Year in 2021. So this is like, if he stays healthy, I think he wins it. However, Puka has not been the cleanest picture of health, in part because of the way he plays over the middle, inviting contact, taking a ton of hits, getting carries. And not only do you have Puka injury risk, you have Stafford injury risk too. You know, if Stafford's back acts up and he goes down, well, Puka's not winning this award, I don't think, right? And so that's why you can still get him at plus 300 here, I think, even though, as I said, if everybody stays healthy, Stafford and Puka, I do think he wins. So, Ryan, where are you at on Offensive Player of the Year right now?
Agreed completely. Where the thing too, like even if there's a backup quarterback that comes in, the nuance in how Puka gets the production he has, I think it actually requires Stafford. But like you said, like I actually think he should be about even money right now. That's how ahead he is. You know, based on what happens in the Thursday night game, like maybe I'll drop in the Discord this week and say something about that. But when I look at this, like I think he's further ahead of Jonathan Taylor than the market has him. McCaffrey's workload concerns me. James Cook's a little interesting at 15-1 though.
James Cook continues to rack up touchdowns at just an absolutely outlandish place. Let me see if this is, there's a plus 1750 out there. So there is a little bit better prices out there on James Cook, plus 1750 if you can find it. Mark, any thoughts on Offensive Player of the Year?
Echo what you guys said on Puka. I actually did bet him at 3-1 here. I agree with Ryan. I think he should be even money. If he doesn't get hurt, like I think he is the clear favorite here. And so when you look at Josh Allen at MVP at around even money, I just think this is a little bit mispriced right now. You know, all the running backs at the top of the board here, I don't have too strong of a take on. I wish JT was like third where CMC is. I might have some interest there. But, you know, looking at the rest of the board, Amon-Ra St. Brown steps up to me here because I think the knock on Puka, and if you are betting against Puka, like I think a wide receiver is somewhat interesting. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's just such a baller. I think, you know, as of now, he's leading the league in touchdown receptions. I think the Lions are an interesting case. Like Ryan mentioned Goff as a long shot for MVP. And I do think now that Ben Johnson is out the door, like maybe these players will start to get some more accolades in the market. You know, I feel like previously it was like, oh, Ben Johnson just orchestrates this whole offense. You know, these players are just distributing the ball, and they aren't even that amazing. And I think this year people are coming around to just how good this Lions skill players are. So I think Amon-Ra at 15-1, just where his touchdown production has been, is interesting. We know the Lions have a pretty tough schedule like the rest of the way. I think, you know, the offense could continue to hum. So Amon-Ra at 15-1 stuck out to me a little bit there.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea, and this is probably fishy. I don't know if I'm actually going to do this, but I kind of like the idea as I'm thinking about it of betting Puka at 3-1 and then taking a bunch of hedges off of Puka. One thing that you can get, and this is going to sound crazy, but you can get 200-1 on Devontae Adams. So let's say you bet Puka at 3-1. He gets hurt. You have the Devontae Adams 200-1. Devontae goes in the Cooper Kupp role. Devontae starts having breakfast with Matthew Stafford. Devontae is in the Puka role. And next thing you know, Devontae is the one racking up 10 catches and 120 yards every week. You have that at 200-1 coupled with the 3-1 on Puka Nacua. What could possibly go wrong there?
That's just the fun of like awards markets and putting together a portfolio. You know, like you may take Puka at 3-1. Now he may blow up against the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. And then like next week you get even longer prices and you can kind of like hedge your bets a little bit there. I think, you know, that's just like the fun of putting together a portfolio for this stuff.
A few long shots I wanted to mention as probably not going to win, but I think it's fun. Jalen Waddle with Tyreek Hill down is at 200-1. It's 150-1 on DraftKings, but there is some 200-1 out there. Quentin Johnston is playing like out of his mind. He is still 400-1. No respect on the name of Quentin Johnston whatsoever. And George Pickens, I mean, I already have like an actual house on George Pickens this year, but what could go wrong with another 200-1 here on George Pickens, just in case the CeeDee Lamb ankle aggravates or something like that. So those were three mega long shots that I had on my list, at least that won't win, but I think they should be priced shorter. Johnston, Waddle, and Pickens.
Yeah, I mean, Johnston in particular, I think he's third in the league in yards. He has 4 touchdowns. Like that's like, he should probably be 30-1 territory.
Right.
Waddle, I definitely agree with the sentiment. I just don't think team success will be there. And with Pickens, when I was looking at this, Pickens is a name I wrote down too. So
yeah. All right. Let's go to defensive player of the year, where there was a bit of surprise last year, right? Not a surprise in season, but if you told me before the season a corner was going to win, I would have been like, you know, I don't know. There's so many good pass rushers in the league, and it's really hard when you're a corner to win this award without returning a bunch of interceptions for touchdowns, etc. Patrick Surtain won it just by being the best coverage corner in the entire league. So that's changed my perception a little bit of this award, but still, it's all pass rushers as the favorites here now. Ryan, any thoughts on defensive player of the year?
Yeah, the one thing I'd point out with last year is the pass rushers failed, and the guy who led the league in sacks, Hendrickson, his team didn't make the playoffs. So I think you need that cocktail with a high-performing corner with a big name, plus the pass rushers to fail for another corner to get there. That said, with this market, Hutchinson on top makes sense. You know, he has the name, he has the team success behind him, and he's produced at a high level. I like Micah Parsons, especially. That said, I think over the next 4 weeks, they're on their bye this week. They play a bunch of teams with weak offensive lines. I think if him or Rashawn Gary are going to rise further, I think that's the spot. And, you know, your boy Benito, man, like I got to hand it to you. You sent me a DM like in the summer because we're all sick maniacs. We're like, dude, what do you think about this at 60-1? It's like, you know, as you said, like, what was the other one? Like, I think in the NFL top 100, he was ranked in the 30s. So he's more of a known name now. Team successes, they're probably at least going to be a fringe playoff team, so he's going to be in there. And, you know, he's put together a very good first quarter of the season, so he's still in a good spot, man.
How was a guy who got 13.5 sacks last year,
I know,
60-1 with 13.5 sacks, and he's 26 years old, and he was only expected to rise, you know, and he was in a contract year then. He's since signed the deal. And now, like, what we did not have before with Nick Benito was national recognition. And these voters, with all due respect, it matters a ton if they are getting on Twitter, on podcasts, on SportsCenter during the games. And now everyone's talking about Nick Benito. Bill Barnwell out here tweeting that it's not even close. Nick Benito should be the favorite to win this award right now. And I know that a ton of these voters are following Bill Barnwell. And I know a ton of these voters also are religiously listening to these ETR pods where I'm relentlessly shilling my own bags, which is Nick Bonito, defensive player of the year. 15-1, by the way, is the best price in the market by far. It's mostly 10-1 out there right now on Nick Bonito. So DraftKings lagging behind here. I don't know that I would take it here at 10 or 15-1. I think one argument against Bonito people will make is all these other guys are getting double teamed, right? Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, they're getting double teamed and chipped on every play. Bonito is running free more. To me, that's like an excuse you make up if you don't want to give the guy the award because you want to give it to one of these other guys. I don't think that's a reason not to give it to him. And I'm not even sure that's true. That could just be like anecdotal stuff people say about how many times guys are getting double teamed. But anyways, that's my Bonito rant. Mark, any thoughts on defensive player of the year?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'll get fired if I don't only tout Nick Bonito here, given your campaign so far. But the Texans guys always stand out to me. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I just think their D line is so filthy. I bet into both of them last year, and I think their prices are a little too long right now. But just given the Texans' team success, I'm a little bit concerned over that at this point in the season. But I do think it's probably a low point for them potentially. And then I think TJ Watt is pretty interesting at 25-1, just with how things have fallen in the AFC North with Joe Burrow getting injured there. We have Lamar now out for a couple weeks. They have some tough matchups upcoming, and the Steelers could very easily kind of run away with the AFC North a little bit. And we know TJ Watt, can rack up the statistics there. So
yeah,
obviously has the big contract this offseason, is a high profile player. I think that one is the best value on the board to me when I look at the longer shots.
Yeah, I thought that too, because obviously I don't follow the defensive individual stuff that closely. I was surprised when I opened this up, Ryan, that TJ Watt was 25-1. Now, one thing that went through my mind was his defense sucks, man. Like, not only am I not afraid to play guys in DFS against the Steelers, I'm actively looking to play guys against the Steelers now. So I think that has some factor to it. But yeah, Ryan, any thoughts on the 25-1 on TJ Watt?
No, I forget what he was last week, but when I looked at the odds, when I wrote the column, I was stunned where Watt was. But like you said, he's not quite what he was, is one thing I'll say. And the other thing is the Steelers defense has been mediocre for the first time in my coherent life. So yeah, I'm with you on that too.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad though. I would agree with Mark. That's probably the best value on the board is the TJ Watt.
For sure.
Let's go to coach of the year. So I typically wait until very late in the year to try to bet this. I've lost a bunch of money betting stuff early. But the reason that I just from following this market, it's just so volatile to straight wins. Like, let's say it's week 14 or week 15. A guy wins one game and he goes from 25-1 to 6-1. So I hate betting into markets where I'm just betting on wins, because trying to predict who's going to win these games is the hardest thing you can possibly do. So I don't have any bets this year in this market, which is pretty rare for me. I'm going to try to wait as long as I can to bet this stuff. If the Colts keep playing like this, it's got to be Shane Steichen, right? It's not even a question. It absolutely has to be Shane Steichen. I know a lot of people are going to say they cannot keep playing like this. He is plus 450 right now on DraftKings as the favorite. Ryan, thoughts on coach of the year?
Yeah, I agree too, especially since I would say from a football perspective, he's manufactured a lot of their success, especially with Daniel Jones. And the other thing too is like you said, I've been smoking these dudes for years in awards markets, so I could go do their job better than them. So I don't really have respect in that sense. But the spread, different story. And the Colts are being treated like a quasi contender by sports books now. So I do think they think it's going to maintain. I do think him and Cohen, whoever wins the AFC South, definitely fits the profile. The one thing I'll say too, and I haven't bet in this market yet either, and like you, I wait until late in the year because this is probably the most broken market that there is. Andy Reid's won this award once. It's absurd. But
yeah,
Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson are both in very good spots. They've both seen odd dips, and they both have some pretty appealing schedules coming. Granted, New England plays Buffalo this week, but I have them both on my radar. I'm not pulling the trigger, but they're both on my radar right now.
Okay. Mark, any thoughts on coach of the year?
Not a whole lot. Mike McDonald at 10-1 seemed interesting to me, just with the quarterback change there, and Seattle is starting off hot there. But agree, it's a tough market to bet into right now, so I'm just naturally looking for the longer shots. Brian Schottenheimer is 45-1 DK, which stuck out a little bit just because like, you know, you have this whole story of Dallas trading away Micah Parsons before the season and just naturally like handcuffing Brian Schottenheimer in this roster to have less talent around him. And the Dallas offense has been very strong by all accounts so far. They've lost a couple offensive linemen, you know, Dak playing really well. So I think that one is just like interesting if you want to fire one off right now. But for the most part, I agree with you guys. It's not something I'm diving into right now. I think the favorites are appropriate for this point in time.
Yeah. The only long shot on my list was Kyle Shanahan. And I don't really like it, but he's 20-1. And like, they have so many injuries. If he can somehow get them to like 12 or 13 wins with all the injuries that they've had, you could see making a case for it. And the reason I think they can get to 12 or 13 wins is because they have the most ridiculously easy schedule in the entire NFL. So he could start racking up wins, but I wish it was a little bit longer there than the 20-1 on K. Shanny. If it was like 30-1 or so, I might actually take that one.
So for me, I really like the idea of Schottenheimer. I don't think they're going to get there, wins and losses at the end of the year, but he's actually done a great job. And 45-1 is a good price. Shanahan's fascinating, especially, this is how I'd look at this. The Rams, let's say the Rams smoke the 49ers tonight. He dips a little bit more. And, you know, this is normally like an exceeds expectation award. A team that was bad last year is good this year. That's usually who wins. But in the last few years, the injury thing where a team's been just destroyed by them does win. He does deserve one too. And they have the schedule where they could still get to 11 wins. So I actually love that. But let's see if there's an odd dip if they lose to the Rams this week.
Yeah, we're recording this Thursday before the game for anyone listening after, just so that you guys know Rams and 49ers playing here tonight. And yeah, I do think that the Rams are going to win the game tonight. And so if I was going to bet K. Shanny, it would be after this week. All right. Last one is comeback player of the year. This has been the one that's been kindest to me by far, just because people messed this up so badly. I don't think after what happened with Darnold, though, Ryan, we're ever going to get that chance again, because now people understand they've been told not to vote for a comeback player of the year for guys coming back from sucking, and so they're not going to do it anymore. There are a lot of good guys coming back from injury this year, though. Christian McCaffrey has this outrageous role right now. If he can sustain health, he's obviously the favorite at plus 175. Aiden Hutchinson coming back from that nasty broken leg. I think Lions defense has been outperforming this year. Dak Prescott, I know that it hasn't shown up in like wins and stuff for them, but man, Dak Prescott's playing at a really high level off that hamstring thing. And then you have Daniel Jones, who, if you want to reward the Colts, Daniel Jones coming off an ACL for comeback player of the year. All those guys, all four, I think have really, really good cases. So Ryan, any thoughts on comeback player of the year right now?
Yeah, with Dak, he's the prototypical winner if Dallas makes the playoffs. I'd lean towards them not, but that's the profile that normally wins. Hutchinson's a celebrity defensive end. You know, I also think he could be a consolation prize comeback player of the year winner if he doesn't win defensive player of the year. Like essentially if he's second in that race, I can see that happening. With McCaffrey, a running back hasn't won since Garrison Hurst in 2001, but if a quarterback doesn't win, I do think, you know, he's the guy who could break that streak. Daniel Jones, I'm not sure if he counts. I'm still on the fence because they benched him last year.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
When did he have the ACL tear? I forget.
I think it was the year before.
Oh, okay.
I messed that. Yeah.
I think it was the year before.
Okay, I messed that up. My fault. Yeah.
All good. But they benched him. I've been thinking about this for weeks because I'm not entirely sure. I lean towards him not counting. I'll say this too. Trevor Lawrence at 2,200. He has not been very good, but the Jaguars are 3-1. If the Jaguars win the AFC South, he's definitely the sort of guy who wins these awards.
Yeah. God. It's hard for me to see one of the top four not winning this mark, and therefore I don't really have any bets, which sucks because I normally love this market. Any thoughts on comeback player of the year?
Definitely lean towards quarterback here. I do not want to bet into CMC as the favorite. So, you know, I just kind of went on that Schottenheimer plea for coach of the year. I think Dak is the one I would bet into at this point. I do think Trevor Lawrence is interesting just on the hopes that he can somehow corral this Liam Cohen offense and get it going. But I think Dak is the main one up top that I would look to bet at this point in time. He's just been playing out of his mind, and you know, CeeDee Lamb missing a portion of the season and them like tying the Packers, I think is already a feather in his cap. And CeeDee Lamb does come back and he continues to produce. Like I could see him kind of emerging as the clear favorite as the season goes along. long shots though, I thought Chris Godwin at 50 to 1 really stuck out to me. Just, his playing time in his first game back was legitimately shocking to me. So obviously the production wasn't there, but went up against a really strong Eagles secondary. I think the Bucs are, just going to continue to be a good pass offense. I'm not a huge believer in Chris Godwin getting back to his original, peak form post this dislocated ankle surgery and everything. But just given the role and the price, I think Godwin is an interesting just bet right now, assuming that this price is going to come up throughout the season.
100%. I totally agree on Godwin at 50 to 1. This is not adjusted for him coming back and being a full-time player. The other thing on Godwin is, like, if you're a voter who is coming off the most gruesome, severe injury, it's got to be Godwin. I mean, he completely shredded his entire ankle, fibula, everything was just totally shredded. And so at 50 to 1, I think that one definitely makes sense. Last thing I'd say on Dak is they did not play CeeDee Lamb on injured reserve. In other words, they think he's going to be back within 4 weeks, and they were asked again about it this week. They're like, no, we're not putting him on injured reserve. We're confident he's doing well and he's going to be back soon. So I feel pretty good about CeeDee coming back in the next 2-3 weeks, which is obviously good for Dak stuff. All right. That'll do it for one of my favorite topics to discuss on this planet Earth, the awards markets. Appreciate everyone being here. Ryan, tell the people where they can find you and where they can find anything you're working on.
No, I do awards columns here every Tuesday, every other week, and I'm doing Survivor content here at ETR on Thursdays. And you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Reynolds NFL.
Yes, make sure you're following Ryan on Twitter for some actual no ball takes. And then, yes, if you're in a Survivor League, if you want to bet award stuff, you can find Ryan's articles on establishedtherun.com. Mark, tell the people where they can find you and what you're working on.
I'm at Twitter at Mark Dank, so feel free to follow me there. And then, most of my other work is just projections and props on Established to Run. So feel free to subscribe and get access to all those goodies.
All right. For Ryan, for Mark, producer Ryan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.